Hello, my name is Katie. Welcome back to my channel. I am here today to do my July wrap-up. So, compared to June, July did not go that well, neither in number of books read, number of pages read, and ratings. So, this should be interesting. First things first, let's look at some stats. So for July, I read 11 books for a total of 4,353 pages. Not that many, but I mean, I needed a break. It's okay. This isn't a competition. This is just a hobby. It's something that I enjoy. For once, dark and emotional aren't my number one moods read. I have adventurous and mysterious, so hooray for that. Let's see, what else? Okay, pacing. It looks like mainly medium paced. Normally I go through and I write down the actual numbers, but like, I'm totally just filming this on the fly. Like, I didn't sit down and prepare at all. I don't even have the books up here with me, so we're just going to be throwing in pictures. As per usual, my most like page number range is 300 to 499. It'd actually be really interesting, I think, to compare these stats to June's. Okay, anyway, nonfiction didn't go that well. I think I only had 2 nonfiction books that I read. Let's find out. Oh no, 1. I had 1 nonfiction book that I read. That is sad. Which means that I read 10 fiction books. Historical is my number 1 genre. Not really surprised by that. That was the kind of mood I've been in. And then out of all 11 books, my average rating was 3.52 stars, which is not that great. So maybe since I didn't prepare like at all, we'll just hop in with the 5-star books, because I can just click and it tells me what I rated 5 stars, and then we'll just go from there. So I rated Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematory by Doughty 5 stars. This was so funny. So in terms of what I suppose you could compare this book to, Stiff by Mary Roach is pretty similar in terms of it's about death and how we view death and death as like a cultural thing, although in Stiff it's very much more like what happens to bodies that have been donated to science, and here it's more just reflecting on death within the Western culture as a whole. The reason I think I enjoyed this a lot more than Stiff is because Doughty and I have a much more similar sense of humor. I get her. She makes me laugh more than Mary Roach did. So I think that's why this one just worked better for me. Reading this, like, you know that there is a universe somewhere in which there is a Doughty doppelganger who is a serial killer. I swear, I stand by that. And then the other book I gave 5 stars to was The Rose Code. This is, wow, one of the best World War II historical fiction books that I have read in a while, like possibly in the last year. This follows 3 women. They are all working as code breakers at, or in some capacity in the code breaking process in Bletchley Park during World War II. And then we're also kind of flipping back and forth between present day, not our present day, but for them present day, which is 1947. It is the run-up to Princess Elizabeth and Prince Philip of Greece marrying. The reason that this is kind of important to the story is that one of our code-breaking gals, Osla, she was dating Prince Philip in the early days of the war. So in the present day, which is like 1947, Osla and Mab get a letter from the third party, or the third person in their group, Beth, and she is asking for their help. She has been locked up in an insane asylum, and she is telling them that the reason she is there is because there was a spy at Bletchley Park who was selling secrets to Russia, and she believes that they think that she knows who they are, and that that is why she has been locked up, and she wants them to help get her out so they can find out who this person is and potentially set Beth free, but then also perhaps catch a spy. The relationship between the three girls was phenomenal. I would love to have a TV show like following the events of this book. I just think it would be great. I feel like it would be similar to like Call the Midwives, but like maybe funnier, because the way they interact and talk is just top notch. I laughed through this. I got like broken hearted. There's a section where Kate Quinn like ripped my heart out and threw it in a wood chipper, and I just it hurt me. This book physically hurt me. But then by the time you get to the end, you're feeling hopeful again for the future, for the girls, for everything. So this was, if I had to pick a favorite book for the month, it would be The Rose Code. Next, I have a 4.25 stars. I gave this to The Revolution of Marina M by Janet Fitch. This, I only gave it 4.25 stars instead of like higher because it started out so slow for me. It is like an 800-page book, and I think it took me a good 250 pages to really get invested in the story. But once I did, it was phenomenal. It was absolutely phenomenal. So I talked about this in my video that was supposed to be a reading vlog and definitely turned out to not be a reading vlog. But so in the beginning, like, I really couldn't stand Marina. Like, I thought she was like wishy-washy, bit of a dish rag. I was like, why are you like this? I thought her friend Barbara was far more interesting. And then I got to a point where I realized that Marina just reminds me too much of myself. And that was why I was having an issue with her. So I kind of had to get over that, and then just realizing that let me see so much more how exceptional the writing is in this book. Janet Fitch totally nails what it feels like to be a teenager and to be in love and to feel like you're an adult but nobody's treating you like an adult, and the frustration that comes along with that. And then as far as like being a teenager growing up in the Revolution, I mean, I can't really speak to that because that's not my experience. But I felt like it was well done. There are like minor things I think that I would change, simply because like it's based a lot on poetry. So Marina is a poet. She ends up with a poet and his like little poet society for a while, and like I just don't get poetry. I just don't understand it. So that was kind of a weird thing for me, but overall, incredible book. I want to read the second book because it's a duology, but then like ideally if Janet Fitch could write a duology from each of Marina's friends' point of view as well, I would love that, because I could spend so much time in this world. Next, I have 3 books that I rated 4 stars. The first one is Madam by Phoebe Wynn. I have a review in which I talk about Madam by Phoebe Wynn and then The Maidens by Alex Michaelides, so I will link that, or maybe put it in the cards, one or the other, or both maybe. I rated Madam 4 stars. It was maybe lacking in a little bit of atmosphere for me, and then I really could have done without the epilogue. Like, I think that kind of killed it for me. I liked the ending where it was left before the epilogue, where you didn't quite know what happened. It left things a little ambiguous. That is much more my preferred way to end things, but I understand that that's not for everybody. This is a gothic story about a woman in the early 90s. She gets a job teaching at this prestigious boarding school called Caldenbury Hall. It is a girls' school, and it has been around for like 150 years. And she gets there, and like things just aren't right. So if you want to know more about that, I will link the review and you can go watch that. Another book I gave 4 stars to, Lumberjanes Volume 2, Friendship to the Max. This was cute. I read Volume 1 as well. You'll see that in a little bit. It's just like a wholesome graphic novel series. It's cute. I think I'm just going to keep checking them out from the library rather than actually purchasing them because I don't know if I like them enough to actually own them. But they are nice for just like a little palate cleanser, something that's fast and easy and fun. And then another book I gave 4 stars to was Dear Edward by Ann Napolitano. I don't hear anybody talking about this book, but it was on the Goodreads Choice Awards last year in 2020, which is why I read it. And it's really heartbreaking. This is the first book in a long time that actually managed to make me cry a little bit. It was like 2 tears, but they were there. We're following, it's a coming of age story, and Edward has survived a plane crash. He is the only survivor, so his mom and his dad and his brother all died in this plane crash, and he ends up getting taken in by his aunt and uncle. And you're just kind of following him through the years, trying to figure out what to do now. How does he go on? There are people who believe he's some kind of saint, that he was saved for a purpose, so he feels like he's getting pressure from people to do stuff with his life because he survived and their family members didn't. But then he also doesn't know what he wants to do anymore. And it was rough. It was cute, but like there were times when it was rough. Okay, in the 3.75 stars category, we have Lumberjams Volume 1, Beware the Kitten Holy. This was fine. I liked Volume 2 better than I liked Volume 1. They're, like I said, they're cute, they're wholesome, they're fun. There's just not like a whole lot there, if that makes any sense. And then I have a 3.25 stars. This was Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This... So there's been some discussion about whether this is historical fiction or not, and it really kind of depends on how you see historical fiction. This is mainly taking place in, I think, the 1980s, but it does go back in time starting in 1956 when the family we're following, when their parents meet, and then we follow them through the generations until we get to their present day. The reason I personally wouldn't classify this as historical fiction is because the focus of the story is not the setting. The setting is very minimal, aside from a few like name-dropping pop culture type of things. This could take place at any time in history. So for that reason, I don't consider it historical fiction. It's very much more just normal fiction where you're focusing on a family and their dynamics. That part was done beautifully. I actually loved meeting the parents when they were young and falling in love, and then they got married and they started having their kids. And then you see Mick, the father, his music career starts taking off, and where that leaves June, his wife. And that was like really heartbreaking. And then in the present day, or their present day, it's surrounding this end of summer party that they've been having annually for a very, very long time. Nina, who is the eldest, her husband has recently left her, so she's struggling with that. The 2 brothers are kind of having issues because one of them's keeping a secret from the other, and that ends up coming out at the party. And then the youngest one, Kit, she is struggling a bit with where she belongs and who she is as a person. I really loved part 1 of the book. I was hooked. It had me. I just didn't want to put it down. But then part 2, we see a bit of a style change in the writing, and I didn't like that. We got a lot of just like random people, and we were like following them at the party for some reason, and I just didn't care. It felt to me like they just added these things in to make the page count higher. I don't know. For that reason, it got 3.25 stars. And now we have one book that got 2.75 stars, and this is a little complicated. So this is A History of What Comes Next by Sylvain and Neuval. This is the first book. I'm not sure if it's just a duology or if it's going to be a series, but essentially we're following a mother-daughter pair, and their ancestors stretch back almost to like the beginning of time, and they have been extremely influential in most of like the scientific advancements and things of that nature that have happened in the world. We're following, it starts in like at the end of World War II, and they have a hand in like the development of the atomic bomb and things like that. They are also definitely not exactly human. We're not really told what they are, but it does seem that they're some kind of alien species that ended up on Earth, and then they're being tracked by another member of supposedly that species, or something along those lines. I'm very unclear still, which is part of the reason why I got the rating it did. The other reason I got the rating that it did is that there's no heart to this at all. You don't ever feel anything for the characters, ever, no matter what's happening in their lives. And then, additionally, the style choice for the writing was weird. So you don't get like quotation marks around different words. You get like a dash, kind of like you would have in like a script situation, except in a script it would tell you who's talking. And we never get that here. So you're kind of just like guessing, because there'll be a dash and someone's speaking, but then the next dash doesn't necessarily mean we went to a different person. It could just be a continuation of their thoughts. And so like, it made it really hard to track conversations with that kind of setup. But, I want to continue this series because I read the author's note thing at the back, and the amount of research that Sylvain Neuval put into this is phenomenal. He really held to this idea of trying to keep it as close to history as possible. Most of the situations that happen in the book happened in real life. He just simply inserted a character, his character, into the situation. And I thought that was just beautiful, brilliant. I also got more of an idea about his vision for this series from reading that. And for that reason, I want to continue. I just can't rate this one very highly. Okay, we have a 1.75 star book. This is He Started It by Samantha Downing. The reason it even got the 0.75 at all was because at the beginning and stuff, it was pretty fast paced and it kept me pretty interested. But then in the last like 80 to 100 pages, the author just like totally tanks it. It really feels like Samantha Downing didn't know how she wanted this book to end, so she just gave it all the endings. And I hated that. I thought it was completely ridiculous. So, no. Just don't read it. I'm not even going to give you a synopsis. Just don't read this. And then the final book we have here, I ended up giving it 1 star, which pained me because I was so excited about this. But when I look back at how I've rated books I've felt similarly about, I really didn't have a choice if I wanted to stay consistent in how I rate. So here we are. This is Witches Steeped in Gold by Ciannon Smart. This falls into that YA trap of trying to force so much story that you can get multiple books out of it, when really you just have 1 book worth of story. The other problem it has is that the writing is not good. It is very choppy. You cannot tell the 2 main points of views apart, like pretty much at all. You have one character who seems to have plans and ideas but is just deliberating the entire time and nothing ever comes to fruition. And then you have another character who just doesn't do anything but somehow inspires like devotion from people, which I was very confused about. Yeah. This is supposed to be a revenge story where 2 unlikely heroes team up to take revenge, but that doesn't even happen till page like 330 out of a 500-page book. So somewhere around page 400, I just stopped actually reading it and skimmed to the end, and sure enough, there's a cliffhanger ending, which means another book is coming out. And like, why? Why do we need another book when you spent 330 pages of very poor world building, very poor magic system explanations, and just characters flopping back and forth on what they want to do and why. There's just no reason for it. I have another video that was, it's part of that, supposed to be a vlog but didn't end up being a vlog, so I will link that, and if you want to hear like full form thoughts about that, you can go watch that. I did read buddy read this with Beth Ann. I will link her channel. She had an easier time with it than I did. She understood a lot more of what was going on than I did. So if you want a different take on this book, I will link her review. She ended up giving it like 3 stars, just so you have more of an idea of if it's going to work for you or not. Okay, so those are the books that I read in July. It was a very mediocre month, and I was very unprepared for this wrap-up, but I hope you guys got something out of it anyway. As always, leave me all your thoughts on any of the books that I've read in the comment section. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you soon. Bye.